You ever wonder if there's just a different way to do things? A different way to organize ourselves as a society? One that's less about top down control and more about, well, actual agreement from the ground up. Today, we're going to take a look at an organization called Foundation Freedom that's trying to do exactly that. They're helping build what they call consent based communities. It really all comes down to this one single question. I mean, think about it. What if the communities we belong to, the rules we live by, and the whole system we're a part of? What if it was all based on our voluntary choice, instead of just an obligation we're born into? That's the big idea we're going to unpack here. So, what is Foundation Freedom, really? Well, at its core, it's what's known as a private membership association, or a PMA. And its entire mission, its whole reason for being, is to help other people form their own private voluntary communities. See, it's not about creating one giant new system. It's about giving people the tools to create lots of small, independent ones. Okay, but to really get what they're doing, we have to look at the philosophy that's driving this whole thing. This isn't just about a new org chart or some legal structure. It's a completely different way of thinking about where authority comes from and what a community actually is. This chart here really breaks it down perfectly. It shows the two models that are basically opposites. On one side, you have the consent-based approach. Everything's voluntary, it's about cooperation, relationships, and agreement. And on the other side, you have the coercion-based model. That's all about force, control, and regulations being imposed on you. Foundation Freedom is trying to live exclusively on the left side of this chart. That's the whole game. And this is the philosophical heart of it all. The core belief here is that real, legitimate authority isn't something you can just claim or take by force. It can only be given by the people who voluntarily agree to be part of it. It's such a simple sentence, but it's incredibly profound, and it's the foundation for everything else they do. And building on that idea, you get these four core beliefs. First, that society is something that people actively build. It's not just dropped on them from above. Second, that real community comes from actual human relationships, not from control. Third, and this one's huge, that freedom is sustained by responsibility. They go hand in hand. And finally, it all comes back to governance by consent, instead of governance by force. Okay, so that's the big idea, the philosophy. But what does Foundation Freedom actually do, like on a practical level? Well, it all translates into a mission that offers three very specific kinds of support. Their work really boils down to these three simple things: formation, education, and connection. You can almost think of these as the three legs of the stool that holds up their entire mission. It's all about helping others build these voluntary communities. So first up is formation. This is the nuts and bolts. It's for the people who actually want to go out and build something. Foundation Freedom gives them the practical toolkit, things like guidance, templates, step-by-step instructions, to help them structure their own private membership association, right from scratch, while making sure it's all built on those principles of consent. Next up, you have education. And look, this isn't some dry academic stuff. This is practical knowledge for people who are serious about living differently. It's all about teaching the how and the why. How does this kind of decentralized governance actually work in the real world? How do you keep a community going? It's about arming people with the ideas they need to turn this vision into a reality. And finally, we have connection. Honestly, this might be the most crucial piece of the puzzle. A single community trying to go it alone can feel pretty isolated, right? But a network of them, well, that's a whole different story. Foundation Freedom basically acts as a connector, a way for all these different groups to find each other, to share what they're doing, and to work together. It helps them show up on the map in a world that might not see them otherwise. So, when you take those three pieces, the formation, the education, and the connection, and you put them all together, you start to see the bigger picture emerge. This isn't just about creating a few separate communities here and there. It's about growing an entire ecosystem. Now, it's really important to understand what this thing isn't. It's not trying to be a new government, it's not a traditional nonprofit, and it's definitely not a for-profit corporation. It doesn't really fit into any of our standard boxes, and that's on purpose. Its whole goal is different. And this is just a brilliant way to think about it. The best metaphor for what it does is scaffolding. It's that temporary supportive framework you put up around a building so that people can build their own thing. And once the building is standing on its own, the scaffolding's job is done. It's there to support the creation, not to be the creation. So again, the goal isn't to govern anybody or to control these communities, not at all. Its job is to be the connective tissue. It's kind of like a search engine or a social network, but for voluntary societies, just helping them find one another. And there you have it. That's the ultimate vision, the end game. Not a world of isolated little groups trying to survive on their own, but a thriving, interconnected ecosystem where all these voluntary societies can interact, trade, cooperate, and support each other, all of it based on mutual agreement and a shared purpose. Which leaves us with this one last, really powerful question to think about. We heard earlier that freedom and responsibility are two sides of the same coin. So, if we actually want a future that's more free, more voluntary, the question isn't who's going to give it to us. The question is who is responsible for building it? And the answer this whole model seems to point to is, well, we are.